Collaboration is not just talking together, it's labouration. It's the way we actually work together, not just share practice, talk about what we're doing. Most people don't have a difficulty, it's not even controversial, about whether we should collaborate or not. The difficult things about collaboration are how to do it and actually doing it. Those are the big challenges. And one of the places where this has really started to focus our attention in recent years is combining collaborative work of teachers with the use of data to increase learning and results for students. Correct? This is one of the key places. So we have 26 minutes left and 28 seconds. So we're going to have a few minutes of interaction first. And what I'll ask you is this is taking this area of collaborative work amongst teachers connected to data that can help us concentrate our efforts more effectively on student learning and achievement and improvement for the whole school. Would one part of the audience, which is up here and all along the top, so this sort of L shape there, would you focus on, when you connect these two areas, collaboration and data, what are the opportunities? What are the examples? What are the positives that exist and that are out there that can lead to stronger professional capital amongst teachers, which leads to better student learning and results? So where are the opportunities for the connection of collaboration with the use of data? And the rest of you, you know what you're going to have. This is all this block in the middle and this block here. What are the dangers, the difficulties, the worries, the obstacles? I'm going to give you, talk to your partner, take about 4 minutes. You're the smiley faces, you're the frowny faces. We'll stop you in 4 minutes and take a little bit of feedback. Okay? Away you go.
We're just going to hear 3 or 4 examples from each group. Andy's going to be the runner. He has a microphone. So we'll start with the question. The positive part was, what are positive examples of use of data for improvement? Anybody can raise their hand. We'll start in this.
Couple down here.
Get a couple down here, maybe 1 or 2 up there. We'll take them all together, the 4 of them, and then we'll both respond. So anybody here, when you discussed it, what did you come up with? Raise your hand, we'll find you. Right here?
One here. Yep.
Proximity works every time.
We just said about having a commitment to honesty within your school and outside of it.
A commitment to?
Honesty.
Honesty. Okay, so what does that mean in the terms of data?
Sharing our strengths, sharing our weaknesses.
Yeah, just sharing what you're good at and sharing what you're not so good at, with a commitment to improve rather than just talk about it as an outcome.
So confronting the honesty of the data and not holding back on it. Okay, that's one. Yep.
Okay, one here.
We talked about using the data either at the end of the year or even partway through, and talking in maybe department teams and looking at what's working, what's not working, but then extending it beyond there and getting different departments talking. So you talk about the learning process rather than subject content.
Right.
So about what makes students actually understand what they're doing rather than just doing the tasks in the short
Something
term.
that can be made common to the different subject areas, the actual
So then you can talk as a school about learning and trying to make the links between the whole school and the learning across the school rather than just in subject areas.
Okay. So let's do, Andy will continue walking up a bit, do maybe 2 more, then we'll counterbalance.
Yeah, hi, it's interesting. We came at it from 2 different angles. I sort of looked at internal and the colleague looked at external. But I'd come up with the example that when you have schools in similar positions as yourself, working in the same environments, it's very, very handy when you see another school that has a Raise Online document that goes all green, And a consequence of that is we invited that school in to our school to deliver something which they passionately believe in, and we passionately believe in. And that collaboration is not just within your own area, but you're collaborating with people from north of the country, south of the country,
right,
etc. And that was a really good example, and that's what we're running on the 10th of December.
Okay.
So I look forward to that.
Good. So we're talking about increasing the sheer number of examples of this happening outside your school as well as inside, just that dramatic increase.
Andy asked what the example was, and it's on literacy with underprivileged children.
Great, great.
Okay.
Thank you. One more from the back
at the
here.
back, just the back center.
Thank you. We work across a partnership, and therefore the issue of trust is key in terms of sharing that data. But what we've been able to do is two things. One is to look at the collective responsibility, where we've got a system where the middle tier is sort of disappearing. We've taken it upon ourselves to look at, the strongest and the weakest working together and supporting each other. And then, as our colleagues said, being able to look at the data and see where strengths and weaknesses are, but also to look at the data and do some co-construction work, so work together on solving common problems, such as the vulnerable learners.
Okay, great. Well, I want to talk about trust in a few minutes, but Andy, shall we get the other side first?
So now, thank you for that. Some kind of doubt. So worries, difficulties, reservations down here.
Two sections here. Raise your hand. Andy will find you in the back row.
We thought there was a danger you could use the wrong data, that you'd focus perhaps on results exclusively rather than data on the learning process itself,
right,
which is often much more difficult to measure. How do you measure good relationships in the classroom?
Okay. We'll talk about the breadth of measurement as well. Three more, I think, we're going to say, just in this section. Raise your hand again. In the middle here, Andy, you have to...
Yeah. Okay, down there.
Yep, we've got...
It's coming the other way. Just hold on.
Yeah, we talked about the consistency of data and how it's not always consistent from school to school and even within schools, within departments. So the dangers that can bring with collaboration and setting targets from there.
Okay, right. Two more.
Two more. Back here.
Yep.
Back here.
I think the danger of reducing children to numbers. So if you say, Johnny is a 4A, that's Johnny, that sums him up. No, it doesn't. It doesn't sum him up in any subject. It doesn't sum up his experience across the subject, his skills in the different areas. I think it can be very reductive if we're not careful.
Right, okay. Do we have one more?
One more from down here, perhaps.
Right behind you, Andy. Well, two. Okay. Yeah, we'll do two. Go ahead.
They would say, we don't have the time. We're so busy with teaching. We don't have the time for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can be so busy testing, you're spending more time testing and looking at data than you are actually teaching.
Yeah.
And yes.
Last comment. Go ahead.
It's from a Welsh curriculum point of view. We have national reading and numeracy tests. When they give us the guidelines, when we're looking at the data, someone said already the misuse data, our reading tests show a middle group of standardized scores from 85 to 115. That means you have less able children who are hitting 85, which they're struggling, so the data becomes obsolete.
Right.
Becomes absolutely useless.
Okay. So I'm going to make two comments, then Andy will be more systematic, I can predict.
Don't bet on it, okay?
I want to pick up trust. Obviously, trust in colleagues, because we're advocating taking the risk of reaching out to more and more colleagues. Trust, of course, is critical, but it begs the question, how do you get it if you don't have it? And I often adapt Stephen Covey's phrase. He said, you cannot talk your way out of situations you've behaved your way into. So when I think about trust, I won't get trust with you if I just say to you, please trust me. I have to name it, I have to model it, I have to monitor it, we have to, so the whole business of trust building is only through the process of doing it. That's how you prove it. That's an important part about it. The second point is about assessment literacy. Not literacy assessment, but assessment literacy. And assessment literacy for us is you build up your capacity individually and collectively to be technically effective at interpreting and dealing with the nature of the data, what people talked about, the misreading, all of those things, so you come increasingly more technically competent about the role of data, including anticipating and taking into account the negative things you've raised. That's the one part. And the other part of assessment literacy is the political side. You become more effective at holding your own in the debate, whether it's with the media or politicians or others, about the uses and abuses of data. You just can become more articulate and effective. So this is, again, where the professional capital and the political capital intersect, because the more assessment literate you are, the more conscious you are about the political engagement on the debate, the more effective you will be, the less harmed you will be by the misuses of data.
And also, what you may be interested in doing is, as of 2 days ago, I have a TED Talk up. Some of you may know TED Talks, which are 18 minutes video. This is a TEDx I did in Brazil with 1,000 people about 5 or 6 weeks ago on the theme of uplifting your performance, your people, and yourself. And it's based on a study funded by SSAT and the National College of unexpectedly high performance in business, sport, and education. Roughly, what we were asking was, what do you do to do a lot with a little, to make something from almost nothing, and to turn failure into success, which is what the organizations we looked at did. And what you'll see on that little TED Talk, so if you just Google my name on TEDx, you'll probably find it, is the easiest way, or my website will be the other way to do it. If you go on there, you'll see one of the factors is that organizations that perform strongly above expectations are not data-driven. They do not throw targets at people from a distance and frighten them into meeting them. The numbers are not more important than the people, but they are evidence-informed. And the data are shrewdly and judiciously combined with other interactions and information in order to create success. Let me take you away from education, but I'll ask you some rhetorical questions. To a hockey team called the Vancouver Giants, arguably one of the most successful minor hockey teams ever, who we studied 2 years ago as part of our portfolio of 20 cases. And we sat with the captain, a guy called James, 19 years old, wants to get into National Hockey League, Major League Hockey, ice hockey, we know it as here. If you say ice hockey in Canada, you immediately display the fact that you don't know hockey, because there's only one kind of hockey that counts in Canada. And as we sat with James, we said, what kind of team are you? He said, we're the Vancouver Giants. We're not the most skillful team. We're not even the fastest team. But we're the toughest team. We're the hardest team. We're the most persevering team. We bang and hit a lot. We are the Vancouver Giants. And that's what the coach says. That's what everybody says. So we said, how do you know? How do you know? There are 3 periods in hockey. He said, we score more goals in third period than any other team. We are just fitter and we outlast them. They just don't go on. We play every minute. They don't. We said, anything else? He said, yeah, block shots. I said in my English accent, because I'd never been to a hockey game before, first ever, I said, Michael's pretty passionate about hockey, so I'm on dangerous ground here. And I said, what's a blocked shot? He resisted the urge to laugh, and he said, a blocked shot is when you decide to place your body between a puck traveling 100 miles an hour and the goal. That's a blocked shot. Blocked shot ratios, which are recorded on video, are a predictor of your team's overall success, and they are predictor of your personal chances of making it into Major League Hockey. They're important collectively, they're important personally. But the coach doesn't throw block shot figures at the players and say, this is the number you need to reach. The coach sits down with the player, reviews video, play by play, when they made block shots and when they might have made block shots. Then they go back into the game and they try to up their percentages. Some can, they make it to Major Hockey. Some can't, they don't. There's a discussion goes on about this metric and about many metrics, not just these two. In the whole club, they have hospitality metrics. They have participation metrics, how much people in the community, families, participate in hockey generally. They have what Kaplan and Norton would call a balanced scorecard of the ways they measure themselves as an organization. So I have some questions for you. What's your equivalent of a blocked shot? Or the number of goals you score in overtime? How do you know you're being successful? How do you use those indicators to create conversations that are meaningful and powerful for the players and the coaches and everyone else involved? Do your staff and your students and parents regard those measures as being accurate and fair? The player in the Vancouver Giants has no question that block shots is an accurate and valid measure of their performance and likely success as a player. In education, are we measuring what we truly value? Or because there's a few quick and easy off-the-shelf tests, are we valuing only what we can easily measure? James and players in other sports get their data back in real time. They get data on themselves that they can look at. How much data are we using in real time that can enable us to improve our work in real time? Or how much are we relying on SAT data that comes after the fact and too late for the people it might directly help? Is it just in time? Or is it long after the time has gone? Is it accurate or is it inaccurate? Is it meaningful or is it not meaningful? Is it balanced or is it imbalanced? Is it discussed collectively with collective responsibility, or is it thrown at people from a distance? These are some of the key questions in hockey about the use of data, in many successful businesses about the use of data, and in the best educational systems about the use of data. Is this how you use data to build social capital or professional capital? Or do you use one or two metrics that you throw at people or people throw at you that don't involve others, that are on unreasonable timescales, that are part of an imbalanced scorecard, that are not just in time, and that are seen as unfair? And to go back to the example of the most improved schools in Lancashire, when you've got your red, amber, green system, and all hands will go up now. If you have a red, amber, green system, raise your hands. Don't forget to talk about the greens. The system is designed to have you focus all the time on what you're bad at or what you're falling short at. The ambers and the reds. And this is okay, but it's also deeply depressing. Deeply depressing. Take time to in the motor industry, where this comes from, they're only interested in the ambers and the reds. When you're green and the car's running okay, that's great, you leave it alone. With people, it's different. We need to talk about the greens, how they became green, what we did to help them become green over time. It's as important to talk about the greens as it is about the ambers and the reds. And remember, behind it all, in Tower Hamlets and in Hackney, where they use these systems, Michael's worked with Hackney as well as me and our colleague Alan Boyle, in Tower Hamlets and in Hackney. The first priority is to know your people, to be in the schools, to have your people trust you and you trust your people. That's the first priority. The data then fit into those conversations. They don't replace those conversations. The conversations, the people, the judgment, the data together make up professional capital, but the numbers can never substitute for it, because wisdom does not come on a spreadsheet, and there's no algorithm for expertise.
Okay, let me leave you with two thoughts. One is, when people say to me, we can't measure what's important, I don't believe that. I think anything you can be clear about, you can begin to measure. Not in the wrong ways, not in the narrow ways, but you can assess how well it is. The index of child well-being.
Great.
So there's no excuse not to measure. The reason you want to measure is to get clearer so you can improve it. Second thing, and also measurement, Andy and I have just developed an index for the 3 dimensions of professional capital, 15 to 20 items each for the 3. We're testing it in January and have it ready in a few months. The last thing I want to leave you with is everybody in this room should commit to increasing what I would call systemness. Systemness is when you make a contribution to an entity larger than your own particular role. That's all it is. So when teachers work together collaboratively in the school, they stop thinking about my pupils in my classroom, they start thinking about our pupils. When principals teach in networks, work in networks, they are just as concerned almost about the success of other schools in the network. So we are talking in the professional capital agenda, but by increasing systemness in a lot of small, multiple ways that add up, intersect, and provide the knowledge base and the momentum to get improvement on a larger scale. Last word for you, Andy?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.